What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. The Giants are 0-2, and this is a gut punch of a loss to me. The Giants should have won this game. They lose to the Washington Commanders, second week in a row where they just fall flat on their face, and yeah, it was better this week. They scored some points. They found their way into the end zone. Malik Neighbors, what a hell of a game. He drops a pass at the end. We'll talk about that, of course. But Alex and I agreed. He said that I can have free reign to just kind of rant to start this thing off. And honestly, that's what I'm going to do, because Alex said to me over text when we were just kind of talking about this game that he was more disappointed than mad. I'm mad. I am actually mad about this game. Like, really pissed off, because this was the highest level of incompetence that I've seen from a Giants head coach probably since the Ben McAdoo era. And guys, don't flame me. Hear me out. Brian Daboll had the opportunity this morning and yesterday to call up a kicker from the practice squad. He knew that Graham Gano was dealing with a groin injury. Instead of calling up a backup kicker to kick in place of Gano, he trots him out there. First play of the game, Graham Gano gets injured. Who could have seen that disaster coming? So Graham Gano doesn't go out there, doesn't kick a field goal. Jamie Gillen, they're too afraid to have him kick a field goal after he misses an extra point. What happens to the Giants? Well, they end up losing by a field goal. The Giants should have never lost this game. It should have never come down to a fourth down conversion that, yes, Neighbors should have caught, but I'm not going to give him a ton of flack for that. He had 18 targets in this game. He caught 10 passes. He was the only player on the Giants offense that was consistently making plays. I am exonerating Malik Neighbors, guys. I'm sorry, but I am doing it. I feel really bad for him, and I'm pissed off for him because he deserved a win. He put his ass out there and balled out. He deserved a win in this game, and Brian Daboll just failed him. Brian Daboll failed this entire team today. I am pissed off because the Giants should be 1-1, and instead of calling up that backup kicker, the Giants just lose. There were so many opportunities, and I know what you guys are going to say. Oh, the defense couldn't stop the Commanders' offense. The Commanders didn't score a freaking touchdown in this game. They kicked 7 field goals. That's unheard of. This defense was stellar in the red zone. They could not score against this defense. They had all those penalties. I know the Commanders' offense didn't get into the end zone one time. Don't blame the defense for losing this game. Don't blame Malik Neighbors for dropping that pass. Hell, you know what? Don't even blame Daniel Jones, because he played fine. And fine is just fine. It is what it is. But Brian Daboll, how are we continuing to make these kinds of mistakes? You are in your 3rd season as the head coach. This happened last year. Remember, Graham Gano got injured? They trotted him out there anyway, and he missed like 3 field goals in a game last season? What are we doing? This is how head coaches lose locker rooms. When you make incompetent decisions like this that cost your team games, when players are fighting for their lives, turning in career-defining performances like Malik Neighbors just did today, and you lose the game because of your head coach, that's when you lose the locker room. That's when things turn into a dumpster fire, and that's what you are seeing happen to the New York Giants right now. I'm incredibly disappointed, but I'm not just disappointed. I'm pissed off at Brian Daboll for failing all of his players in this game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we could run back last week, and last week we're really upset about Daniel Jones. And listen, this game was not some crazy bounce back from Daniel Jones, and I want to say that right off the bat. This was Neighbors' yak game. This was a game where Neighbors was catching crossing routes and running downfield for 30 yards at a clip, 20, 30 yards at a clip. Daniel Jones was just doing the easiest thing possible. Brian Daboll dumbed down this offense to levels that I don't even think were possible, just to get Daniel Jones the ball out quickly so he couldn't make mistakes. Daniel Jones proofed this offense today. Run the football, crossing concepts, get the ball into space. The Commanders have one of the worst secondaries in the sport. And all they had to do was get the ball. I mean, I watched Daniel Jones throw a freaking ball into triple coverage to Wan'Dale Robinson when Neighbors was wide open. Now, I'm not going to sit here and roast Daniel Jones because he wasn't the reason that we lost this game. The reason we lost this game is because the Giants, like as you mentioned, trotted out a kicker in Graham Gano that was injured before the freaking game, guys. He had a hamstring injury. He was hobbling around before the game, and they still trotted him out there. And he got injured on the first play. The first freaking kickoff, opening kickoff. They couldn't kick a field goal. They had to go for it. And then Daniel Jones throws a pretty solid ball, a perfect ball. It was a nice play on 4th and 4. Neighbors has to catch that ball. I'm sure he's going to learn from it. He probably figured it was a big moment that his head got to him before the ball got to him, and he just dropped it. It happens. but he had 70% of this team's offensive production. He had 10 receptions for 127 yards, guys. I mean, Singletary had a solid game aside from the fumble, 95 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Aside from Neighbors, though, Slayton was second on the team with 33 yards. They just fed him the whole game. Now, what I will say is this, Anthony. We learned something really important today. Malik Neighbors is Daniel Jones proof. Get him the football in space and let him cook. Get him the football and he will run your offense for you, right? But the problem is, good teams are going to take him away. Good teams are going to make sure he does not get the football, and then it forces Daniel Jones to go through his progressions, and then it's all over. Like when we go play, I mean, I don't know who we're playing next week, but this team is 0-2 right now. We just lost to the Commanders, my friends. The Commanders, who have one of the worst defenses I've ever seen, and basically just ran screen passes against us the entire game. They had 37 minutes of possession compared to the Giants' 22 minutes. They didn't need to score touchdowns because they were on the field the whole game. They didn't let the Giants offense get on the football field. Now, maybe the Giants offense would have been a lot better, but they decided the best way to protect our defense from getting absolutely cooked is just hold on to the football as long as possible. And they did that to perfection. Brian Daboll, look, the decision-making in-game was fine. I didn't hate some of the things he did because he didn't have a kicker, but the decision to not have Graham Gano placed inactive and then call up a healthy kicker is bewildering to me. They dumbed down this offense. They barely took any shots downfield. Again, this is one of the worst secondaries I've ever seen, and we literally did not take any shots downfield. Jalen Hyatt did not step on the football field. They do not trust Daniel Jones to be a competent quarterback and stand in the pocket and make good throws. Every throw he threw deep was 10 yards out of the distance of Neighbors. I know there was one that was just beyond his fingertips, but it was overthrown. He did not even come close to making one of those deep passes, complete. It was disappointing, and I get it. What they did was working. But in the end of the day, we cannot run a competent offense this way. Against better teams, we cannot run an offense that just relies on Malik Neighbors' yards after catch. It is not going to work against better defenses. And we're going to learn that the hard way, when we play the Browns next week, who have a really good defense. Or the Cowboys, who just got blown out by the freaking Saints, but are going to come back with a vengeance. Or the Seahawks or the Bengals, or the Eagles or the Steelers. They all have exponentially better defenses. You cannot rely on a Neighbors yak production line to be your entire offense. It's not going to work. Daniel Jones is going to have to operate a normal offense. And I will say one positive thing, Anthony. The offensive line today was very solid. I was very happy with what we saw from that. Daniel Jones had time. He was moving in the pocket. They opened up solid throwing lanes. Everything I saw from the offensive line I was very happy with, and the run blocking was excellent. I will say that the offensive line just put a second really good day on the books. A really good day. And they're compounding good days. And that's what I was talking about last week. That's a major positive. Neighbors is DJ-proof to a degree against weaker defenses, average to weaker defenses, and the offensive line is playing at a much better level. So I'll let you get in there and talk about kind of where we go from here. Brian Daboll, in my opinion, is absolutely on the hot seat right now, but we will talk about the one defensive player that we really like today after you kind of get your 2 cents in here.
Sure, I'm excited to talk about the one lone bright spot on the defensive side of the ball. No, honestly, that's not even true. I didn't think that this defense played poorly. I said that earlier, and I'm sticking with it. I'm really bitter right now. I am not over the fact that the Giants didn't have a kicker. They have a healthy kicker on their practice squad right now. His name is Jude McTominay. They had the opportunity to elevate him yesterday when Graham Gano popped up with an injury, a groin injury no less. Guys, a kicker with a groin injury. How do you kick the football with a groin injury? And then he goes out there and he pulls his hamstring. So it goes from bad to worse. Not only that, Alex, I mean, is Jamie Gillen that bad? I know he missed the point after try, but he came out after halftime and he was warming up, hitting 50-yard field goals. When they were down there in the red zone, you could give him a chance to kick the ball. I mean, I'm sorry. I know that it's not exactly the most comfortable thing to do, give Jamie Gillen a chance to kick, but I mean, what do you have to lose? At least give the kid a try, right? Let him kick the ball. I mean, it's a 30-yard chip shot. Give him a chance. Maybe he makes it. Boom. If not, then you have to watch the Commanders' defense go all the way down the field. Again, their offense, rather. So, and I'll kind of speak to some of the points you made with Daniel Jones. Guys, Jones did one thing right in this game. He didn't turn the ball over. He kept the ball clean, and he did not make one of those blow-up, terrible, mind-boggling mistakes. That is totally true. That's about it, though, because if you look at his stats today, he had 178 yards, and 127 of those were to Malik Neighbors. He only completed 16 passes on 28 attempts. That's not all that impressive. He had 178 total yards, and I understand time of possession factors into all of this, but guys, don't sit here and try and be like, Daniel Jones bounced back. Are you guys still going to rag on him? Probably, because I'm not overly impressed with the way that he played today. I thought he was good enough. And what's the one thing that I've been saying all offseason and season long? It's not good enough for Daniel Jones to be good enough. He has to be great. Otherwise, he's going to get Russell Wilson. He's going to get benched because of his injury clause in his contract, which, coincidentally, Adam Schefter reminded the world of this morning. I'm telling you, Alex, that is not a coincidence. That was Joe Schoen saying something to an agent so that it could be said by Adam Schefter publicly, so Giants fans have a little bit of their impact braced here when that finally hits. So overall, this offense I thought was fine. It ran through Malik Nabers as it should. He had 18 targets. He had 10 catches. He should have had more, honestly. He was the entire offense. And I was really thrilled to watch him play. And my message to him after dropping that pass, you are 21 years old. You just had 10 receptions, 127 yards in your first ever division rivalry game in the NFL. Pick your head up, young man. Malik Nabers, you are a stud. You are a superstar in the making. You did not lose this game for your team. I need Malik Nabers to know that, because the way that he was so upset on the sideline, first of all, I love that. I'm happy that he's pissed off and he's upset. I haven't seen a Giants player behave that way since Odell, and he did it in a justified manner, pissed off on the sideline. He was just hanging out with his teammates, angry. That's good. Channel that energy, though, back onto the field next week and go kick some ass. Neighbors, do not beat yourself up over that one, because it's not your fault that the Giants lost this game. Again, I am just very pissed off about this. They have a healthy kicker on the practice squad. What is he doing on the practice squad? I don't understand. The Giants walked into last week's game, Alex. They didn't even have 53 active men. I don't even think they had 53 active today. I think they had 52. 51. So what are we doing? Where is the kicker? If you have 51 active men out of a possible 53, why is the kicker not on the active roster? Why do you not have the backup kicker? That actually just infuriated me, Alex, to learn that.
I think they elevated Timon Fox and Ty Johnson maybe to fill the last spots. But again,
yippee!
I don't think Timon Fox played a snap today. You know, like, I don't know, like, what's the point? Look, and I'm not. I'll say this. I'm on Twitter. I'm scrolling. The Giants just lost to one of the worst teams they're going to face this year. The other really bad team they're going to face this year, I believe, is going to be the Panthers. I think they play them at some point, if I'm not mistaken. They're about to go through a gauntlet of really, really tough teams to play. So they play the Panthers in like 5 weeks. But the Browns are going to beat the shit out of us. The Cowboys are going to beat the shit out of us. The Seahawks are going to dog the shit out of us. The Bengals, they're going to get healthier and better, and they're going to beat the shit out of us. The Eagles are going to... Saquon is going to kill us. He's going to kill us. It's not even competitive. The Steelers, look, they have a really good defense, but, you know, their offense is we'll see if they get Russell Wilson. Look, what I'm trying to say is the Giants just lost to the second worst opponent on their schedule, and it is week 3 next week. And Anthony, the probability of Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen being fired increases every week. Right now, it is a 50-50 chance that they're fired. By week 5, if they're 0-5, if they're 1-4, they're going to be fired next year. It is not going to be a matter of if. It's going to be a matter of when. And the only thing that's going to stop them getting fired before the season's over is because we don't have anyone else to take over. I don't think you trust Shane Bell. Maybe Mike Kafka is the interim head coach at some point. That's where we're headed right now, guys. Brian Daboll is leading a team, making bad decisions with personnel. Joe Schoen, listen, I don't think Joe Schoen is the worst GM in the world, but he has not hit on most of our draft picks. The coaching hires have been horrific across the board for the most part. There have been some individual, like I think Carmen Bristol is a good coach, but I think Andre Patterson's a good coach. But where the hell is our pass rush, guys? Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns are ghosts out there. Dexter Lawrence is the only one doing a single thing. Drew Phillips might be the best draft pick that we have had in like a long time based on what we've seen over the last 2 weeks. But I'll tell you this right now. I have zero faith that either Brian Daboll or Joe Schoen are going to be with this organization. This might be a clean sweep, and I texted you this earlier today. If the Giants do not win some football games coming up here, we're looking at a Daniel Jones, Joe Schoen, Brian Daboll, and Shane Bowen at that. Clean 4 freaking sweep, if that's the case.
Listen, I need to highlight one specific quote that Joe Schoen had on Hard Knocks, and I think it's very important to highlight. He said, "We cannot afford an 0-3 start." That is an exact quote straight from the general manager of this team. He understands that getting off to a hot start this season, he knew that that was important, and that digging yourself in a 3-loss hole to start the year would be unacceptable. The Giants, and even more context to this, Alex, when he said we cannot afford an 0-3 start, he said that in reference to signing Drew Lock, just in case Daniel Jones was injured at the beginning of the year and wasn't fully recovered from his ACL tear. So we're talking about a GM who knows his back is against the wall, and this team needs to win games to start the season. Otherwise, things are going to get dicey. And I absolutely believe that they are getting dicey now, especially considering that this loss, like I said, is completely attributed to the incompetence of this coaching staff, headed by Brian Daboll. I mean, listen, guys, I know he was head coach of the year in 2022. What a season that was. The Giants exceeded all expectations. He willed them to a few victories. Even last year, down the stretch, that team won more games than it should have. Daboll made some really great decisions and willed them to a few victories. But also take a look at a lot of these losses, how unprepared the Giants have been going into games. I mean, Kevin O'Connell last week, Alex, in the post-game hype speech that he had in his locker room, his victory speech with his players, he says, we were the more conditioned team, the more prepared team, we were the better team. And he was absolutely right. The Vikings were all of those things. And you know what? The Commanders weren't that far off from being better conditioned, better prepared, and better game planned than the Vikings this past weekend. So this Giants team has consistently fallen on its face with Brian Daboll leading them, and he's made a lot of very costly decisions. So you're completely right though, Alex. Like, when you look at the schedule, it doesn't get any easier until we reach that Carolina Panthers game. Every other team that the Giants are going to face, they're going to be underdogs against. They're not going to be able to just pick up some wins down the stretch here and make a run. The only saving grace for Daboll this season is going to be the fact that the NFC East is really bad right now. The Commanders are beatable. They'll have a chance to beat them again later this year. And yeah, Dallas is not looking so hot right now. But other than that, I mean, Philly looks like a powerhouse, and this is a Giants team that among these bad teams in this division is the worst. So I don't know how you could be very hopeful for the future right now. I think this is going to be a long season, and I don't only think that just because, guys, Daniel Jones isn't our franchise quarterback. I think that because I also feel as though the Giants might not have their franchise head coach, and that might be even worse than not having your franchise quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, listen, guys, we're headed towards catastrophic levels of sweepage. I mean, we're talking about a full overhaul again, right after we just did it for a third straight time, aside from, Dave Gettleman. We did 3 straight coaching overhauls with Pat Shurmur, Jason Garrett, and of course now Brian Daboll, and Joe Judge. How could I forget? Or not Jason Garrett, but Joe Judge. There are veteran head coaches out there. There is Mike Vrabel, who can at least run out a team that isn't a complete disaster. He's a defensive mind, but if you go out and get a good OC, who knows what could happen. Right now, Anthony, listen, this is approaching newfound levels. I didn't think this team could be any worse than they ever were, right? This defense, look, you said that you didn't think they looked that bad. It was a bend, don't break situation for them, but it was against one of the worst offenses in football. Against a better team, like we saw against the Vikings. And the Vikings are a good team, obviously. I think they ended up winning today against the San Francisco 49ers, which is pretty damn impressive. Did they end up winning that game? Yeah, they did. 22-17. So the Vikings are no joke this year. So, of course, they beat the brakes off of. They have a lot of confidence. Justin Jefferson had a huge game. 133 yards on 4 receptions is kind of insane because of the 97-yard reception. But listen, this Giants team is getting put in their place against better squads. They're going to give up, even if it's a 50% touchdown rate on the drives that the Commanders had that had 7 field goals. They're going to give up 25, 30-plus points a game, and our offense cannot handle it. This is going to be, if they lose the next 4 or 5 games, straight, if not lose, 80% of them, this is going to be a full coaching staff sweep. And if you're John Mara, Anthony, I'll ask you this right now. What do you do? If you're John Mara and you have to do this all over again, you have to change another head coach, another general manager, who are you calling? Who are you tapping to fix this organization? Are you going to Bill Belichick? I know a lot of people don't want that. Are you going to Mike Vrabel? Are you going to a younger guy like a Ben Johnson? Are you looking at maybe someone like the Saints OC right now? Looks pretty damn good what he's doing at Dallas today. Obviously, the personnel is phenomenal over there. But right now, look, are you going young or are you going experienced? Because right now, the Giants are staring down the barrel of what is another embarrassing performance. Joe Shane, he's done really good stuff with the cap space, but the draft has been awful. The personnel packages have been bad. The coaching has been bad. The play calling has been bad. The roster turnover has been bad. Dude, what happened with Wink Martindale storming out? That was a disaster. Like, you're in the New York media market, and we have guys storming out and cursing out people, and we're sitting here acting like pretending as if that's okay. We said we called him out at the time. It was bullshit. It was bullshit. And now we're sitting here once again wondering, do the Giants have a path here to success? And listen, Anthony, it's been 6 years now of Daniel Jones. He's gone after this year. Like, they're going to go get a GM and a head coach, and it's going to be with the predication that Daniel Jones is sent to a remote island far away from this Giants team where he cannot touch them, right? That is what the future looks like for the Giants. The question is, who do you entrust? Who do you entrust to make the right decision to draft the quarterback that's going to help you win football games? Who do you trust to make that choice, right? Who's the guy? Who do you pinpoint and say, this guy is the one I'm going to trust to determine what our future at quarterback looks like? I don't know. Bill Belichick built a career on Tom Brady, but I don't know, can we trust him to make the right selection at quarterback? I don't know. Mike Vrabel is a defensive-minded coach that built a team around Ryan Tannehill, right? I do not know if he's the solution here. Is it Ben Johnson, who built a career around Jared Goff and resurrected his career? I don't know. It could be anybody. But right now, Anthony, I don't know who to trust. After Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, who is there to trust to rebuild this organization? It's a conversation that is week 2, and I am fucking pissed that we're having it, dude. I am so upset. Because the truth is, we are such a prideful bunch, and all of our fans care so much. We get in fights with each other. We care so much about what this team does. And we called it out in the preseason, Anthony, how pessimistic we were about this team, because we knew this was going to be a steaming shit show. Because Brian Daboll was making really odd situations that, as you called out many times, did not play this team in the preseason when they clearly needed it. Daniel Jones and let me walk you through the financials of Daniel Jones's injury guarantee. If they continue to play him, and he took a hit to the head today, by the way, that I was like, that looked like it could have been a concussion. He was taking hits, he was running the football. If he suffers another season-ending injury, and the Giants fire Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, and their leftover parting gift to us is the $41 million cap hit from Daniel Jones, I will lose my shit. Okay? That is unacceptable. If I'm John Mara, I'm stepping in right now and saying, you guys are going to be fired if you do not step up. If you do not win, if you don't go 500 this season, you're gone. Even if you go 500 this season, you're gone. But you have to bench Daniel Jones right now. That is my decision, because if he gets hurt and we owe the cap hit and we have to go and get a whole new general manager, a whole new coaching staff, and they're stuck paying that freaking bum, it is going to be the worst possible situation for a new coming in. Look, Anthony, if I'm another GM, if I'm a guy, a free agent head coach or free agent GM, I'm not taking the job if I have to pay Daniel Jones $41 million next year, because I cannot build a team around that cap hit, right? They have to bench him and make sure he doesn't screw them next year, because they're going to lose leverage. If other teams need head coaches, if other teams need GMs, they're going to lose leverage knowing that they still have to pay Daniel Jones' salary next season, right? They need to be an attractive destination. They have to say, we have a top 5 quarterback basically at your disposal, a guy that we're going to draft for you. We have Malik Neighbors, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, who is a ghost, but hopefully can get better as the season progresses, Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Okereke and Drew Phillips. We have a whole nucleus of decent players that can be better in a better scheme, right? A better system, a better coaching staff would make this team better, in my opinion. I think most people would agree with that. But I'll tell you this right now. They need to bench Daniel Jones because they cannot compromise their ability to overhaul this staff at some point. Of course, like, that goes against what Joe Schoen and Daboll are going to do, because they need to win right now. But the truth is, they can't operate an offense that's explosive, because Daniel Jones, they had to dumb down this offense today. Yak, crossing concepts, get the ball out on shallow routes. Like, he did not throw the ball downfield. It was a lot of easy dink dunks and runs. He couldn't even freaking connect on a screen pass to Neighbors. He threw it over his head about like 5 yards, right? Like, they dumbed down this offense to a level that I didn't think they could even dumb it down to. And I don't think that Daniel Jones bounced back. I think Neighbors basically willed this team into a chance to even win this contest. I don't know what you have to say about kind of the Daniel Jones situation in terms of, benching him, but like, how much longer is the leash? I think that if Drew Lock, if they bench Daniel Jones, they wave the white flag on the season. Like, they're basically forfeiting their jobs at that point, right?
He doesn't have a leash. I mean, we've talked about this so much now. Like, you're 0-2. If you go 0-3, it's done. Like, your season. What are the stats on teams that have made the playoffs after an 0-3 start? It's like almost impossible. There's been like 3 teams in the past 20 years to do it. So if you go down 0-3 next week, you pull the plug. Like, that's it. You got to start playing for the future. That's all that the Giants can do. I don't know if that's what they will do, but it's what they need to do. They need to start planning for their future. I think that's the point that we're at. Listen, the only reason that you keep Daniel Jones out there is because he's building chemistry with Malik Neighbors and you want to develop Neighbors. Honestly, at the end of the day, I think if Neighbors is enjoying playing football with Daniel Jones, F it, you probably leave him out there for a couple extra weeks and then you pull the plug once you know that this team isn't making the playoffs. But the fact that we're talking about not making the playoffs and this season being over after 2 games, that says all it needs to say. I mean, Brian Daboll has really dug himself into a hole. So has Joe Shane. And you said that this team is a nucleus of young players. I don't know about that, dude. I see a lot of holes all over this team. I don't know how attractive this can be for any GM or any coach.
This is a bad team, dude.
This is not a bad team situation.
It's not, but I will say this. A better coach would at least have these guys fighting. You know what I mean? These guys aren't even fighting out there. That Brian Robinson run, that was 60 yards downfield. They can't even tackle. I don't see these guys like they're missing tackles and stuff like that. That's unacceptable from a standpoint of just basic fundamentals.
I don't agree with that. This team fought hard today. They kept that team out of the end zone. The Commanders did not score a touchdown. They fought hard. This team fought hard. Malik Neighbors fought hard. Daniel Jones, this is as good as you're going to get from him. He played his ass off. He fought hard. I'm going to give him credit. I think the
bigger question is like fighting hard and losing 21-18 to one of the worst teams in football is a big indication of how bad this roster is.
It's a big indication of how bad the coaching is. You got good performances from players all over the team. You got a good performance out of Daniel Jones. You got a good performance out of Devin Singletary, who took 16 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown, 5.9 average. You got 127 yards out of Neighbors. The defense had some standout performers like Drew Phillips. There were a couple sacks in there today. They really didn't let Jaden Daniels kill them, to be completely honest. I thought the defense played fine. It wasn't perfect, but it was fine. They had 7 quarterback hits, 5 sacks, and 10 tackles for loss. They were constantly in the backfield. I mean, Drew Phillips had 12 tackles and 2 tackles for loss and a sack. Pinnock had 2 tackles for loss and 2 sacks somehow. The guy was out of his mind. They had standout performers. These guys were playing hard. They're fighting their asses off, but I don't think they're doing it for Daboll. They're doing it for each other, and they're doing it for their jobs, and that's the fundamental problem here. This team isn't necessarily fighting their ass off for Brian Daboll like they were in 2022. Now they're playing for each other and for themselves, which, yes, is valuable and important, but how long is that going to keep up if your head coach keeps losing you games? It's not going to keep up, and ultimately you're going to end up having an interim head coach take over by week 8 if it continues. That's what the problem with this team is. I don't think it's fair to criticize the effort of the players or to criticize even the performance of most of these players, because a lot of them really did play well. Deonte Banks had a few great pass breakups on Terry McLaurin. He played great. Like, all of these players, I thought, did their jobs. The one guy who didn't do the job was Brian Daboll to me. That is it. That is the end-all, be-all of this conversation. Boom, bing, done. Daboll failed this team, and that's where we're at. And this is not the first time it's happened, and it probably won't be the last. I mean, Alex, do you remember that game against the Jets last year? I mean, how did the Giants lose that one? Brian Daboll made some really bad decisions. What was it related to? Graham Gano. I don't understand what this problem that he has with the kicker injuries really is. Just put a healthy kicker on the field. Like, it's not that hard. I don't know. I'm just going through the motions here, talking about this team. I think it was a good performance. They fought their asses off. They played hard. They still lost, and they lost because of their coach. And that is why this loss is so demoralizing, because the players really did deserve a win here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, listen, even if the players did, it's just there's a couple standout things. I mean, 215 yards allowed on the ground. The defense, listen, they held up. They only let 7 field goals, but like the tackling was bad in a lot of respects. There were a couple of individual performances, like Drew Phillips had 7 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a quarterback hit as well. Jason Pinnock leads the team in sacks this year, so that's a really fun one. It's the pass rush is not hitting home a lot. The run defense is spotty. This team is not a good team for a lot of reasons. Even if they're leaving it all on the football field and exerting maximum effort, this team is losing for so many reasons. And the Washington Commanders, I mean, they got dog walked by the Buccaneers. Jaden Daniels didn't even throw the ball downfield. He was dinks, dunks, screen passes, runs. That's all. The Giants, all they had to do was, kind of play a shallow zone and stop the run, and they would have won that game with ease. But they didn't do that well enough. Listen, the defense gets gassed being out there for 37 minutes. They had a lot of really bad third down defensive plays. I mean, Austin Eckler had that really big one. I know that 3rd and 4, that holding call they called on Drew Phillips was complete BS. But they gave up a lot of 3rd down conversions. I think specifically, I can probably look up the team stats. Let's see, 3rd down efficiency, they were 7 for 14. So they had 50%. The Giants were 4 for 8. They converted their only 4th down, play there. So it was really bad. Like, overall, the Giants are facing a gauntlet of games upcoming that is going to determine whether or not Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll survive the rest of this season. Like, I mean, Anthony, at this point, I kind of feel as though they don't have that much time left to turn things around before John Mara makes a rash decision and just fires everybody, before the season even ends. And probably just promotes Mike Kafka as interim for now and then sees what happens. Because Daboll is a really, really suspect head coach, as you've referenced many times. The decision-making is poor. The personnel decisions are poor. The turnover in coaching staff, he does not get along with coaches. I mean, how about that, Anthony? That's even a discussion we haven't even discussed. Him and Mike Kafka are not buddies. Like, Mike Kafka got demoted. I mean, he got assistant head coaching role, but they took the play calling from him. Like, he got demoted. Him and Wink Martindale hated each other. Everyone hates Brian Daboll. Like, like the internal, I'm not going to say everyone because that's probably dramatic, but there are a couple of key coaches. Your assistants, your primary OC and your DC hate your freaking guts, man. Like, that's a really big red flag to me, and I think that John Mara is probably kind of getting wind of that right now.
I mean, I don't know if he is. I don't know if I've seen much evidence of that outside of Wink Martindale, to be completely honest. I think the more compelling evidence here is that Brian Daboll on the field has done a really bad job. And once the players stop playing for him, that's when it's going to end. Honestly, sometimes you don't like your boss. It is what it is, and you just move forward in life. That happens quite often. And that might be happening with the Giants coaches and Brian Daboll. But once he loses the players, that's when it's a wrap. And honestly, I think a game like this is where you lose the players. When you lose a game like this in the fashion that the Giants did, that's when the head coach loses the favor of his locker room.
I mean, dude, if they lose to the Browns and Cowboys consecutive weeks, which is probably going to happen, that Cowboys loss in MetLife, we may see them lose players. We don't have the leadership to sustain this. You know what I mean? Like, we lost Saquon and Xavier McKinney, our 2 primary leaders. Like, those guys are gone. There is no one stepping up and keeping this team together. Like, they were trying to keep the team together after week 1. Like, how about after week 4 when we've lost 4 straight games? This team is going to implode really, really quickly, guys. It's going to be a really long season. I know they're going to say all the dumb, like, generic quotes. Oh, we're going to put things back together. We're going to get back out there and compete. And, I respect the players for putting it all out there and leaving it all out there and, being screwed over by bad decision makings by not elevating a kicker, and just bad, whatever challenges. I don't know. It could be a variety of things, but end of the day, if your head coach is losing you games, that is a problem. And Brian Daboll lost them a game today. So, I just feel as though this is kind of a statement loss for the Giants. We do not lose to the Commanders. Usually they're a free W for us. No longer. The Giants have now fallen below the competency of the Commanders. That is catastrophic levels of bad, guys. Catastrophic. Becoming worse than the Commanders, or even losing to the Commanders, is embarrassing in so many ways. And they have Jaden Daniels, and he looked really solid today at times. They're not even really letting him do much. They're kind of dumbing the offense down for him and building him up. He just did basic stuff, made the easy throws. They're not really expanding that offense just yet. So, at the moment, this team is the bottom of the barrel. They are one of the worst teams in football. They may be the second worst team behind the Panthers. That is going to be one hell of an interesting game against the Panthers to see if we can even win that one. I am very, very concerned that this team is going to implode. I don't know what that looks like. These guys are used to losing. Neighbors is not, though. I really don't. I just hope Neighbors can survive this type of season without saying anything really that's going to hurt him. Because as a winner, I would be pissed. And you saw how pissed off he was today, and I respect his passion. And sometimes, guys with passion are emotional, and I don't think I think he'll reel it in, he'll be fine. But like he's not experienced what it's like to be a New York Giant when things go wayward like this, and it's unfortunate that he has to be put in this position because he's such a great talent, and I hope they can give him a better situation in the future because we can't waste these players, man. We're wasting away years of elite talent at a couple spots, and it's really sad to watch because we can't get better, man. We can't do anything right. We can't compound good days. The only thing doing better is the offensive line. But the Giants find ways to beat themselves. And at the end of the day, like that's where we are right now. We're a losing football team. We're a bad organization. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, that seat is red freaking hot. And I think Joe Shane's going to lean on Daniel Jones and probably throw him under the bus at some point. They're going to bench him, and they're going to say, Drew Lock, that's why we're losing. We have a backup quarterback in there. We can't trust Daniel Jones like the Steelers did last year. Maybe that's the only way they can save themselves is by leaning on that narrative, but I still don't think that's enough. They have to win some games here. They got to compete next week against the Browns, who have a very susceptible offense, but I don't know what else to say. Like, I just demoralized, upset, pissed off, every synonym of anger you could come up with. But I'm also numb. Like I'm emotionally numb to these things now. Like I just expect it, and I go into these games thinking, 1 o'clock, Giants are probably losing this game, no matter who the opponent is, and that's really disappointing as a fan of my entire lifetime to watch this team.
You said it best. You don't know what else to say. Neither do I. I'm kind of just done here, honestly. Like I'm pissed off at this team. I'm really pissed off at Brian Daboll. We called this a must-win game. I think it was. If it wasn't, next week absolutely is. If the Giants lose and they're 0-3 to start the season, I think we start talking about making serious changes, not only to the front office, to the personnel, to the coaching staff. Everything has to get switched up because this is just unacceptable. I mean, every single year we expect this team to be better, make progress, and they fail to do so. I don't know who you want to blame. You can blame everybody. You can blame one person. Doesn't matter. Something has to change. And right now, I'm not confident that it will. I'm very upset with this team. I'm very upset with Brian Daboll. I'm very happy with Malik Neighbors. I'm not going to hold this loss against him. That drop is whatever. He made one mistake, and they asked him to do everything, and he did almost everything. He didn't deliver on that one play, and that's fine. And I'm happy that he's pissed off. But I will say, Alex, I don't know if you saw that video of Malik Neighbors on the sideline. Brian Daboll tried to go up to him and talk to him. Malik Neighbors didn't want to talk to him.
Really?
Again,
I didn't see that.
License plate guy just posted it, so you should go check that out. That's
no way.
I get it. Neighbors needed some more time to cool off. Take your time. He said not now, so he's gonna wait and he's gonna cool off and then probably talk to Daboll in the locker room, and that's good. But I don't know. I think that's a sign of what's to come.
He's pissed, man. I mean, listen, dude. If they keep losing, I know he blames himself for losing this game, but it's not his fault. Right? I mean, it's a critical moment. Can't drop that pass. He's going to take it personally. He'll be better for it long term. I absolutely believe that. But the Giants lost this game for many reasons, and Neighbors cannot be blamed for this. If this team continues to lose games, I feel bad for the kid. Like, the kid's a winner. Like, he's a winner on a bad football team. Dexter Lawrence is a winner on a bad football team. Andrew Thomas is a winner on a bad football team. And this team can't put it together. Their lack of discipline, their lack of composure, the lack of personnel decisions, the good ones at that, it's catastrophic levels of bad, right? John Mara at this point, I mean, Daboll and Shane have to be in that room together saying, like, if we don't get this thing on the right track within the next 2 weeks, we might be gone before the season ends. And that would really stink because we put so much faith in them, 3 years of faith, to be rewarded with this garbage. I mean, look, I don't expect anything from the Giants anymore, but I at least expect them to not, like, they're professional head coaches. Making decisions like this at a peewee level, it's unacceptable. There's nothing else to say. There's nothing more to say. Get better or goodbye. That's it.
Couldn't say it better. I'm done here. I'm pissed off. I need to go watch some good football now because that was tragic. I'm watching this video of Brian Daboll slamming his headset on the ground. Like, dude, are you kidding me? Get a grip with this freaking act that you're putting on here. I pissed off at slamming the headset down like as if you lost this game, dude. Whatever. I'm kind of sick of this. Let's just move ahead to tomorrow, Alex. Hopefully we can find some highlights and positives to draw from this game. Drew Phillips will be one of them. Hopefully we can expand on that and discuss some other good performances again. Jones played good enough. Neighbors played great. We'll talk about all that stuff during the week, but for now, we're not happy. I'm sure you guys are pissed off too, and man, I hope the Giants turn it around ASAP, because if not, I think things are going to get really ugly in the New York, New Jersey area, but that about wraps this one up. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you're new, follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants, and without further ado, catch you in the next one. Let's go Giants.